If you listen to the show, you already know that we cannot exist without our sponsors. They are the ones who make things happen behind the scenes. So let's acknowledge Fuji Sports. We've been working with these guys for a while now, not only as far as this podcast is concerned, but also at the RŌL Academy. We've had their gear. I personally use their gis. What a phenomenal product.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA, tape, bags, anything you need for your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com.
Let's talk RŌL TV. There's so much content on there. It's ridiculous at this point. But I think what is even more intriguing, as time went on during the project, we've been recording most of the events that were taking place here at RŌL Academy. At this point, I mean, we have guys like Chris Howder, Armand Fadi, Rafael Lovato Sr., and Pete the Greek. I mean, there were so many different events that we've kind of recorded it. Don't you think that's amazing? I mean, points of reflection and kind of going back for all the students to see what really happened and refresh their memory.
Yeah, I think it's great, you know, being able to go back and look at all these high-level practitioners, Octavio Cudo, like one of the names you didn't mention. And I mean, just these guys that have been doing this for so long come in, teach these amazing seminars and workshops, and it's all recorded and there for you to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get additional savings on all this, type in code RŌL Radio at the coupon and get additional 30% off of your membership.
Nice. Go to RŌLacademy.tv. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please remember to hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. That ensures that we can continue bringing you the great guests and amazing content that you have come to expect. Today's guest is an inspiration not only to her students and followers, but to anyone who has had to pick themselves up after a setback and start all over. Erika Dawn joins us to discuss her journey from having a dream of becoming a professional dancer, falling short, and taking on a whole new dream of making jiu-jitsu her new profession. Here's the RŌL Radio with Alberto Crane Black Belt, instructor and GM at Legacy Jiu Jitsu Burbank, and content creator, Erika Dawn.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live.
There we go.
Are we recording, Gary?
I'm recording.
You were struggling a moment
No,
ago before our guest.
It's because I did class just now, and I'm old, and when I do class, things fall apart afterwards for about an hour and a half.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it takes a while, you know.
You know, I just noticed you wearing a Legacy hoodie. Are you trying to suck it up here to our guests? Is that what it is?
Hey, twofold. One, I wear it all the time. This is my favorite hoodie now because it's a zipper hoodie. I don't like pulling over my head. Right,
we have zipper hoodies.
If you see the fabulous hair, I don't like mussing it up. So I have this now because all my other ones are pullover. So this is the one, and it's perfect. It's like warm enough for a 35-degree day like today, but not so hot that I can't wear it when it's 60. So I'm happy with it. Yeah. Plus, it's.
Yeah, I love those pullovers.
Yes, and the place is great.
Pullovers and the zippers.
Yes. So,
Erika, welcome to the show. I think he did this intentionally just to get your attention. That's my theory on this.
I saw it right away. Like I was fighting, like not fighting with my tech.
No, I wear it all the time. If you go, I know nobody wants to see me, but if you go to the YouTube versions of all these and watch, you'll probably see it. When was I out there? December. So starting in the beginning of December, every podcast from then, you will probably see me in this one or the one that says The Gentle Art on it. So I wear it all the time.
There you go. Yeah, those are great hoodies. Love those zips.
Yeah, whoever's doing your merch is on top of it.
All right, Gary, stop talking. We need to convert to our guests.
All right, let's go.
This is all about her today. I mean, Erika, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, boy.
Do you see what I have to put up
Thank
with
you
here
for
every
having
single day? Every single day. This is like the bickering.
I love it. You guys are laughing. That seems like a good start, you know?
Is that the recipe in jiu-jitsu and being in jiu-jitsu business, martial arts, laughing, having fun? Or is this, you know, the life is a little bit more serious? I mean, you are in a big position at your organization.
Yes. I would like to say both. But creating that balance between both is the difficult part and takes a lot of mindfulness and takes a lot of effort. I remember back in my blue belt days, there was more seriousness and a lot more tears. And someone pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, if you're like crying all the time and this is no fun, like, why are you doing this?" And I was like, wow, you are so right. And so then ever since then, it was like, if this isn't fun and I'm miserable all the time, then why am I doing this? So that's where the balance has to be created.
Yeah, Gary, hear that? Stop crying.
I don't cry. I cry on the inside.
But before we jumped on officially on the air, one of the things that I highlighted with your career particularly is, I think what's interesting about all of this is that one, you migrated to LA area, well, as a young lady, right? And then jiu-jitsu you stumble upon jiu-jitsu, and we'll talk about how it all started. But then you progressively went through the rankings. You progressively became more and more involved with Alberto Crane organization and legacy. And today you do play a significant role in the entire organization. And I have to, it has to feel good to go through these milestones, if you will, and have a point of success that you are experiencing today, no?
Yeah, it's one of those things like I see on Instagram sometimes, like, oh, if I told my 16-year-old self, or when I moved to LA, I just turned 19. So if I were to tell my 19-year-old self now being 31, if I would say, hey, you're going to be here when you're 30, I'd be like, what? Like, are you kidding me? I don't believe you. So it's definitely been a crazy journey. I've gone through a lot of trials, a lot of struggle, but I think just with the consistency and grit and an open mind and keeping very like clear intention. I think I was brought up in the way that like if you take care of the people around you, like genuinely, like they'll take care of you back. And so just having kind of a blend and a mix of that, I think is really just what's been propelling me forward all these years, and to just keep at it. And then yeah, when I look back at where I was when I was 19 compared to now, it's been this incredible journey. So,
and for those who don't know, for those who've lived under the rock and don't know who Erika Dawn is, you are essentially a general manager and you run the whole facility, isn't it?
Yes. So we have a couple different locations.
Yes.
My professor is Alberto Crane, and I work with him. So we have a handful of locations. We have our Burbank location, which is our headquarters.
That's the famous one, famous place.
Yeah. So that's like my home and like where I came up the ranks. And then in the past couple of years, he's opened a location at various cities. We have a Glendale location, Pasadena location, Crescenta Valley location. And so just now what I do is I primarily help him run and organize the Burbank location. And now I'm expanding into also helping with all the other academies, the other locations, making sure everything is streamlined, making sure the coaches and the teams of the other schools are getting what they need. So yeah, now I'm a busy lady. I, help with our headquarters, and then I also help with all the other locations, as well as running and directing our own kids program in Burbank.
Yeah, you're busy.
Busy lady.
Lady.
Coming up through all of that, so you're talking about retrospect and looking back, and all you've accomplished while you were going through it. How did it feel? Was it like, oh no, more responsibility, or was it, I'm ready for this? I've done so much already.
So I've always, I think just again, from my parents and my upbringing, I've always been like, what's next? How can we do more? How can we like grow? It's always been like a very growth mindset. Like, I think my family's kind of like when you're still, you die, or you decline. So if you're not going forward, it's, what are you doing? And so, I think, looking back at various parts of my journey, like when I was a white belt, everyone thought I was crazy. I was a dancer, and then I went into jujitsu and didn't even know what it was. And but I got hooked right away, started competing super early on. And I was the crazy, like, 2-stripe white belt that was like, this is going to be my life. Like, this is going to be my life. I'm going to make this my career. And everyone was just like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're probably going to quit in 3 months. You can't make money in jujitsu. There's no money in jujitsu. So no, you can't make a career out of this. And I was just kind of like, maybe call me naive. I don't know. But when I was a white belt, I was like, no, yeah, you're wrong. I'm going to do this. Now fast forward, here we are 10 years later. And it's like, I have an amazing career, and I have surrounded by 1,000 people, amazing people. So, in the beginning, it was like mostly the adversity of people just telling me I was crazy all the time. Like, I was literally a 2-stripe white belt, and I was like, I'm going to coach, and I'm going to be like damn good at it someday. And they're like, you don't even know what you're doing. And then when I was a blue belt, it was about like, okay, I'm coaching now. I'm coaching. It's time to dive in, and at the time I was doing personal training when I was a blue belt. So I was making good money. I worked for a private personal training facility, and I was making good money, but it was interfering with my jujitsu goals. And so I remember telling Alberto that I was going to quit, and I was going to quit that, and I was going to full send into jujitsu, knowing that I was going to take a significant pay cut, like, because I was just assisting. I was just an assistant for the kids program. And, we only have 3 kids classes a day. So, 12, 16 hours a week, and I was going from a full, like, I had packed my personal training schedule like to the brim, and I was making great money. And then I quit, and I literally handed a trainer like an entirely full client base, and I left to go do this jujitsu thing where I was just an assistant. And I remember it was hard for me to make that decision, but it was something I knew I had to do.
Hold on, I'm gonna stop you. You unloading a lot of information here. Okay, hold on.
I'm sorry.
I have like 17 questions already. Okay, so but there is one thing that
I was gonna go through all my colors.
Hold on.
Blue, purple.
That's easy for me.
Hold on. Because one of the first things that struck me in the very beginning of your story, you mentioned that when you moved to LA and somebody asked you, or right now, when you would ask yourself, the 19-year-old Erika, would you be doing this, for life? You said, no, you're out of your mind. Yet, moments later, you said, when I was 19 and was 2-stripe white belt, I was completely obsessed, and I knew this was my life. So
yes,
there is some underlining here, right? Like, and I know what you mean. People thought I was crazy when I was doing jiu-jitsu. Yeah, well, I still am, but that's but walk me through this. You moved to LA. You're 19. Jiu-jitsu doesn't even exist. Do you even know what jiu-jitsu is when you moved to LA?
No. So, okay, there's a little time in between there. So I moved to LA when I was 19.
Yeah.
A dancer. Danced my whole life. I put all my eggs in one basket. Didn't apply to college. Didn't go to college. Sucked at school. Barely graduated high school. Academics did not get me to graduate high school. Being really good people person with all my guidance counselors, and they got to know me as a person and be like, okay, academics isn't your thing, but we think you're gonna be fine in life. Like, we're gonna just pass you. So I was like, I'm not going to college. I'm gonna go dance, and I'm gonna move to LA. And I'm 19, and I worked 2 jobs to save up money, because my parents were like, you can go, we'll let you move to LA, but we're not gonna pay for it. You got to pay for it. So
what was that conversation like with your parents? I'm going
with my parents?
Yeah, I'm going to LA. I'm moving. I mean, Colorado, LA, not that far away, but still, you're moving away.
Yeah. So my parents were very supportive, and I would come out to LA in the summers with my company, my dance company in Colorado. And so I started coming to LA when I was 16 in the summers, and I would train. And so my sophomore year of high school, I wanted to audition for a program right after graduation. And I told my parents I was going to do it, and I wanted to go. And so since I was a sophomore in high school, they were like, that was the goal. And again, they were like, okay, you can go, but if you go, you have to support yourself. And so that's when I started working and
Yeah.
got jobs and just started saving my money.
You're chasing the dream.
Yeah, I was chasing the dream. And then I came out here and I did the audition and I didn't make it. At like 3-4 years, I was obsessed with this program at this performing arts center and I didn't make it. And
What-
I was like,
What's going through your mind? All right, walk me through this. This is getting more and more intriguing for me.
I know. It's been, my last decade has been like crazy.
So you get the message. You didn't make the cut.
Yes.
What are you doing? Are you
Midnight.
staying? Are you staying in LA or are you going back home? I mean, I would imagine this is an emotional roller coaster at that point.
Oh yeah. So I come out and not only did I just fly out for the audition, I came out in the summer to train with them so they knew who I was. And I was training with them and I was literally couch surfing. Like I was couch surfing with strangers, like girls I would just meet that already were established here. And I had met like maybe like summers before. And so I'm training all the people that kind of run this scholarship program. They knew me and they were like, oh, we can't wait to have you on scholarship. Like, we're looking so forward to it. Like, you're such a hard worker. Da, 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 da. So I'm like, oh, I'm a shoo-in, right?
Wow.
Like I'm a shoo-in. I can't wait. I've been training for this for years. I've been saving all my money. I was 19 and when I did the audition and I had $9,000 that I had saved through high school, like to try to survive. And so do the audition. My mom comes out for the audition and I remember staying up till midnight, like waiting to see the roster. And they posted it right after midnight. I get on and it's like the movies. Like it was literally like the movies where your name isn't on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my name wasn't on the thing. And I just like sat there on the floor, just like, what?
Yeah. So you didn't
Like,
blow the audition. You thought up until then, you thought you still had it.
Oh yeah. I like already started looking for apartments or trying to figure out how that would work. And so then I remember I couldn't even cry. Like I couldn't even cry. I was so just like dumbfounded in the fact that like this is what I had set my sights on for all these years and it didn't happen, you know? And so I remember calling my dad and he was in Colorado and all I said was, I didn't make it. They didn't take me. And my dad, he's just like, huh. And then I started to kind of cry and he's like, okay. He's like, yeah. He's like, can I cuss?
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I allowed to cuss?
I'm surprised I haven't already.
And it's not. So my dad was like, that fucking sucks. And I was like, crying. Snot crying now, you know? And he goes, okay. He's like, but what are you going to do about it? And I was like, well, what do you mean? What I didn't make it, Dad. I didn't make it. This is everything I wanted enough. It's not happening for me. And he's like, okay, so you're going to just take your suitcase, you're going to come back home and then you're going to keep working at your cafe and teaching some dance classes. And I was like, he was like pissing me off. And I'm like, no. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And he's like, okay. He's like, just have to make sure you're like still like, you know, you. And so he's like, why don't you call me in the morning and we'll make a plan? And I'm like, okay. So call him in the morning and I'm just upset and crying and looked at the list again. And it was just like, Dad, how could, like refreshing, like thinking my name would be there and it wasn't. And so, you know, my mom and I go to like brunch and we're walking down, which is crazy. It was like, I didn't know anything about LA. And we went to Burbank to walk down Magnolia. Now, years later, I literally am in Burbank all the time with my school or working with Alberto. And I was just like, I don't want to go back to Colorado. You know, it's not what I want to do. And she was like, well, why don't you move out here for the summer? Like you've already been here. You have money. Just come out here. And I was like, okay, you know, called my dad, said the same thing, made a plan, go to Colorado, pack all my stuff. And there was a girl I knew And she was like, I reached out to her and I told her, hey, I didn't make it. And she was just like kind of guiding me through it. And then she was like, I told her my plan, how I wanted to come out for the summer. And she's like, well, look, I just booked, or I just got an apartment and I'm leaving to go on tour. She's a dancer as well. She's like, I'm going on tour. There's nothing in the apartment. Like, I just needed it whenever I come home. She's like, there's literally, it's empty. It's a 1-bedroom. I'm paying $990, like $1,000 for rent. She's like, so if you come out here, just give me $500 a month and you can just live in it. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, done. I'm doing it. I got a ticket. And she's like, I'll just leave a key under the mat and here's the address. So here's this 19-year-old girl flying to LA with my bags, 2 big old suitcases. And I'm like, get to where I'm going. I don't even know where I'm going. It's in Sherman Oaks. Didn't know where that was. So I go to Sherman Oaks and I walk up. Sure enough, there's a key under the mat, and I walk into this empty 1-bedroom, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And in the beginning, it was like I didn't have any money, like because I didn't want to spend what I had, and so I would walk around and I would look for jobs, and then I was auditioning, and then that was getting tough, because of the money and like the traveling. And then my mom brought me out a car. So now I had a car, but it was like, well, it took a while to get a job. So I didn't have money for the gas. Got a job at Sports Authority. And then in all of that, there was that personal training gym close to my house. So I walked in there and ended up working there. And, I feel like I'm rambling, so I don't know how much to keep going. But
Erika, I gotta tell you this. 99% people that I know, and I know few people, and I think all of them, or 99% of them, would quit, and they would say, "This fucking sucks. I'm going home. Why not? I mean, my parents can help me. Like, everything is done. Like, and I as I'm listening to you, I didn't even hear the hesitation of that being an option. Like, and perhaps, you fluffing this up to make a good story, but this is, I guess, what I'm trying to get to. Like, is there a point you walk into, you don't even know where you're going. You got suitcases. You walking up to an apartment. You taking the key from underneath the doormat. I mean, like, who the hell knows what's behind the door? And you're like, okay, I mean, yeah, let's do this. This is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
yeah.
Is there a point of hesitation in any of this, or you're in a grit? You mentioned grit, and I love the grit, the book, but like, you're in that mode.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of struggle. There was a lot of struggle and a lot of tears and a lot of loneliness and a lot of self-doubt. Like, there was, of course, those things, of like, all of that, because it got to the point, where I was just working at sports where I didn't have any money. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't have any money, and I was too I think, what what kept me here was my stubbornness, because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to go back and have other family or friends be like, yeah, we knew you wouldn't really stay there. I couldn't even, I didn't want that. I couldn't like handle that, and so, there was times when I didn't even have enough money for gas, so I would walk, and I bought a bike, and I bought like a junkyard bike, and I figured out how to live on, like, it's crazy now. You could not do this now, but I lived on $12 a week for food. I would ride my bike to Trader Joe's, fill my backpack with food. And so it was hard. It was like a struggle. And there was lonely nights, and, I had nothing. Like, I had no furniture. I had a Tupperware that I would flip upside down, and that's like was my table, and I had no TV, no Wi-Fi. No, there was none of that. I was too poor for that. It was walking, it was journaling. And so it was lonely. And I remember my mom, I would show you, it's right there, but some people see it in my story sometimes. I have a DVD collection because for one of the times my mom came out to visit, she got me like a little TV and a DVD player, and then a way that she would like we would bond and she would keep me going was she would send me DVDs in the mail, because that was like my only entertainment, and then so it is a crazy story when I look back, and I'm sure at the time there was a lot more tears and a lot more like just loneliness and what am I doing, and I'm not booking jobs. They're telling me I'm too like broad shouldered. I wanted to be a Disney princess and that wasn't working, and I would get down to the last part of these auditions, and I remember one of my last ones was I really wanted to be Jane, like for Tarzan and Jane, and I wanted to work at Disney Hong Kong, and it was just me and one other girl, and my skills were superior, and I was like had an acrobatic background as well, and they took her, because of like the size, and I was just like, and at the time that was crushing. That was like, what am I doing? Like, but even in the moments of what am I doing, like giving up and going, like leaving, it didn't really, I don't know.
How did you handle all that rejection? Because I think, it's funny living out here in the Midwest. People always talk about LA and Hollywood and how easy they have it and how much they get paid for what they do, which maybe for some people is true. But the constant rejection that people go through, and it has got to be soul crushing. How do you maneuver through that?
Yeah, I mean, there was one, like, I just got hit with like a memory. There was one where it was like, I got this email, there was like a casting call or whatever. So we go, you stand in this long line outside, go in, there's like 500 of us in there, whatever. And it, that was a big deal for me to go all the way down to this audition for my car, not having any money for gas. And I walk in and they were like, if you're not blind, you can leave. And it was like,
okay.
What?
Right. Yeah.
You just traveled. So it's crazy. And you have to like really, it'll beat the hell out of you. Like I really applaud artists here, because if you make it, like I know you had to struggle like immensely to keep pursuing your craft. So I have like when you see professional dancers, singers, writers, all of the people in the entertainment industry, like it's hard.
Well, but I'm gonna pivot this to what we all love, which is jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
It's a similar. I don't know if the percentage of success is similar or not, because I know nothing about creative arts, but in order for one to stick around with jiu-jitsu, we do experience similar emotional roller coasters as what you are describing. Sometimes people pass us with ranks, sometimes we get smashed, sometimes sucks, sometimes injuries, and just the longevity of 6, 8, 10, 12 years to get to that goal, which even it shouldn't be a goal, but a lot of people aim for that black belt as a rank. It sometimes is not even reachable, and do you think that grit that you talk about, do you think that this stubbornness, did that set you in success in what you do today? I mean, was that a contributor as one, you being as Gary, what I say all the time, like anybody ever ask me is like, how did I make it this far? I'm just too stupid to quit. I just keep showing up, but do you think, first of all, a female black belt, that's an extremely small percentage these days, even though it's growing, and this is fabulous, right? But it's still small percentage. And then being in a role that you're playing in the organization, that's almost unheard of, right? So like, what is the main contributor? What experiences do you highlight when it comes to the point of success for Erika?
Call it stubbornness, being tenacious. Probably, you said too stupid to quit. Like I'm too stubborn to quit. Like I feel like, there's always people wanting to see you fail. And but then at the other flip of the coin, there's people that want to see you win, and it was just like, kind of leaning into oddly both of those, like my stubbornness and being like, you might watch me fail, like you might watch me fall on my face a whole bunch of times, but you're not gonna watch me quit. You're not gonna see me. I'm not gonna give you that satisfaction of watching me quit. And then there's other side of it of people are watching and people are learning from you and people are inspired by your story, or people are you give them hope. And like I think hope is one of like the most beautiful things that we have in this world, and if you can just like lean on a tiny bit of it, it can propel you for so long. And so there's both of that, like how can I be tenacious and how can I like help? And I feel like if you just ask yourself that in pretty much any circumstance in your life, you're gonna move forward, so yeah, I mean, the just completing the 19 to when I started jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I was a dancer and I was struggling, and but got into personal training through that. Met my personal training boss, who trained a bunch of black belts and getting them ready for worlds and stuff. And all the black belts would come in and they would tease me about jiu-jitsu. Had no idea what jiu-jitsu was. And at that time I was working more than I was dancing and auditioning, because I was making money and I'm starting to get on my feet. So then they were like, come try a class. And so I tried a class, and then I was like hooked. So that's like that weird transition we talked about a while back.
Yeah.
It was 19 when I moved and 21 when I started training.
This appears like two different worlds. One, you're a dancer. Two, there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of failures. There's a lot of obstacles in your life. Three, well, let's just say it's not unicorns and rainbows all the time. And then they are saying, well, try this. And you try it and you're hooked. What is about the jiu-jitsu? What is it about that first week, first month, whatever the time period was, that was so gravitating, so magneting for you?
Yeah. So I didn't know what it was, and I had zero martial arts knowledge, like negative knowledge. Like the only thing I knew was like karate and you hit boards. I was that person. And so I had no idea what to expect. And then my boss showed me, because one of the guys he would train was Homolo.
Okay.
Homolo Barral.
Yeah.
So he shows me world highlights of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into here? And so I remember, like, I just got like really nervous thinking about my first day. But I remember going, and I hate being late. I'm like super type A. So I get there super early. I'm in the parking lot, and it literally took me like 30 minutes of mustering up the courage to go inside. Yeah. So whenever anyone comes into the gym and I'm like talking with them, and I'm like, I was so nervous. I'm like, did you pace in the parking lot for 30 minutes? Because that's what I did. And then I went in and they're like, here, let us get you a gi. And I'm like, what the fuck is a gi? I have no idea what you're talking about, but okay. And so they bring me a gi, and I'm like the classic, like holding my arms up to my sides, and they're tying my belt. They walk me on, and then the beginning was like kind of a blur. Honestly, it's like you run, you do inside shuffles, outside shuffles, you're doing stuff up and down the mat, and I was like, oh, crap, I can't do any of this stuff. And so you start to feel like I started to feel a little like insecure. And then, there was a black belt on the mat, and then there was also a brown belt, and like they were kind of talking, and then the brown belt pulled me aside and pulled out like a big crash pad. And the class was like over there doing something, because I was like the only white belt. I went at noon. I was like, they didn't have like a separation between like fundamentals and advanced. And so this brown belt takes me aside and he starts teaching me like hip tosses, like load him up, lift. But like I was just throwing him, like load him up and then like throw him on the thing. And so he had me do it to him. And then he was like teaching me how to break fall and fall down. And I just remember like then he was I was getting it. And I think my dancing background and the choreography like sense of things was like helpful. And so we just kept doing it. And then like he was kind of like push me around and be like, don't fall over, like don't cross your feet, like teaching me how to shuffle and be in a good stance. And I just remember I was like, that was so much fun. Like I just was throwing someone. Like that's cool. And so I went back, and at that first week, I like really started to get the hang of it, like just the hip escapes, technical
Mm-hmm.
lifting, we started working stuff from guard. And I just remember how like weird it was that like they would just like knock me over, like over and over and over again, because you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
or like and I just remember it was so intriguing to me. I was so intrigued by it, and I signed up. And then I changed my private lesson, or my personal training schedule, to where I could just go every day at noon. And I loved it. Like I loved it, and I feel like I excelled. And again, with the stubborn thing, when I started rolling, I just wanted to win. But I was totally like white belt fury.
Were you that person?
Yeah, Thomas was one of those too.
100%
I was one of those. Yeah.
white belt fury.
Oh yeah. No, I remember training and having the thoughts that I can literally demolish every black belt on the mat. Like I legit like was going in with them on a mission. Like it was it's just war zone.
Yeah. And then that like first stripe feeling, like you get a stripe and you're just, your whole world is just like,
oh yeah,
my God, this is so cool.
All right, so fast forward a little bit here. You life is good. You change. You change. Obviously, you revamp your life. You revamp your schedule. Your work is getting impacted. And at the beginning, you talked about there's this moment where you have a conversation with Professor Crane and says, "Listen, like there's an interference here. I might have to quit this." And I think this was the only time when you mentioned that you might have to quit today. And so I want to kind of anchor on that. You are in a position, and correct me, okay? Well, it might be more, but hold on. You, at least the perception I'm getting, you are with a point where you have to choose. There is a selection that's being made between your, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but either you doing your your personal training job, or you have to kind of pivot into more of a jiu-jitsu, right? That has to be a tough choice. You come from, well, not so financially fortunate, young life, right? When you move to LA, and then you find a point of success with personal training. Seems like the financial support is like good. Life is good now, right? And then you have to make the choice. You might have to have the conversion. And I know from my personal experience, I had to make some of these choices a couple times in life, and that's not an easy decision. How do you dissect this decision? How do you make the choice of, listen, I'm going to go and do what I love versus what makes my life easy?
So it wasn't ever a decision of quitting jiu-jitsu. Okay. It was the decision of, okay, I've been training. I'm a blue belt. I'm an assistant kids coach. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to do this jiu-jitsu thing. So the quitting decision was for me to quit that cushy life I had worked so hard to make with the personal training, and give over my whole client base. And, for anyone who knows Alberto, there is no such thing as an excuse with him. He is the epitome of just do it. Like, just do it. Make it happen. Make it so. And so I remember sitting on the mat with him, telling him, like, I wanted to quit my personal training, and I wanted to dive into jiu-jitsu, and I was going to take a big financial hit. Like, I was essentially going to make a quarter of what I was making with personal training to do jiu-jitsu. And so he was just like, this is what you make it. And he was like, you can hustle. He's like, you got to hustle for privates. You got to, take on more classes. You got to, and I'm like, okay, like I think I'm going to do it, and then my dad, when I was talking to him, he said, growth is not like, it's not consistent. It's not this pretty diagonal line. He goes, you were here, low, poor, hungry, tired, sad, like lonely, but trying to get your hustle on. Yeah. And you grow, and your graph is going up, and now you're at this nice steady, you're making a good income. He goes, but you're maxed out on your hours. He's like, you're working 12-hour days doing personal training. He's like, you're maxed. he's like, so with jujitsu, and if you feel like there's a room for growth there, you quit the personal training, you're going to go down. Your graph is going to go down, but then over time, it's going to have the potential to go up even higher than what your max out was for your personal training. So he's like, you got to go down to go up, you know? And so I'm like, okay. So it wasn't an easy decision to make. It took a while, months to make, but I finally made it. And I was just coaching, and I was just coaching, and I was trying to get private lessons, and I got like one steady family. There are two sisters, the Innes sisters, and the dad was just like, hey, I want you to train my girls. Like, they look up to you, you know, as a female on the mat. And so I started working with them, and then they started doing well in competitions. And then I started to kind of build up like a little bit of, a credibility. And so started working more privates. And then when things got tight, I kind of opened up my mornings for personal training. And so I was doing a mix now. So now like I let go of the private personal training, focusing more on jiu-jitsu, focusing on competing myself and learning how to coach kids and doing privates. And so now I'm like still not making what I was when I was just doing personal training, but I like the knowledge was just, it was unmatched because now I'm doing it all. Like I'm learning how to coach in a group setting. I'm learning how to work one-on-one with people. I'm learning how to like take their strengths and mold it into techniques that will help them as an individual when they compete. So I'm learning how to manage my time and my schedule, like wearing different hats. And that's when it really started, was just on that level. And then over the years, through purple belt, through brown belt, through black belt, it's just that ability to wear multiple hats just expanded. But it all started with just taking that risk and being like, I'm going to quit what's comfortable because I don't see the exact picture of what my jiu-jitsu future is going to look like, but I believe it could look like something, but it's never going to get there unless I take that
But see,
jump.
this is where this conversation gets interesting, because again, majority of people would say, screw this, I'm going to live this comfortable life, I'm going to do what I do. And these conversations, I'm confident that you had these conversations with other people when it comes to hiring individuals at the academy. We've had them here. I've had them with Gary. I mean, convincing somebody to give up something that we are, first of all, humans are creatures of habit. So anytime we make a forklift change with our life, it's extremely uncomfortable. It is extremely high risky. And oftentimes anxiety just goes through the roof. Our mind creates scenarios. We don't think about what's going to happen, but we often think about what we're not going to have. And making these life choices is so difficult, so difficult.
Yeah.
How do you maneuver through this? Now, looking in retrospect, like how do you maneuver? How do you have these conversations even with yourself?
Yeah, for me, like none of those decisions were like hasty. Like it was when I decided I wanted to quit the personal training, it was months, like months of like, it's like back and forth, you know. And I do credit a lot, like my parents, like they're constantly expanding their like limits, you know, like they, you know, same thing. Like my parents didn't go to college, and my dad and my mom have an incredible business in Colorado, you know, that they built with blood, sweat, and tears. And so I think having that as like a role model helps, you know, to be like, okay, I've seen this work. And I think that one has helped me. But yeah, there was a lot of conversations and back and forths, and but again, like being around Alberto, there is no excuses. You know, he's like, you just do it. You just make it happen. You just do it. Conversation isn't long, but it's just like, you know, you do it. And I had good friends, and, you know, my best friend moved out here, and she ended up meeting a guy, and they had a CrossFit gym together. And he was one that really, her boyfriend, now husband, got me into like reading books. So I started reading a lot of books, and I remember taking a lot away from extreme ownership and being like, wow, like, yeah, we can take extreme ownership. And it's just like, I've made excuses in my life. Everybody does it. Everybody makes excuses. Everybody lies to themselves. Like, it's inevitable. But if you look back at different times in your life and you leaned into an excuse, where the hell did it get you? You know, like, where did it get you? Honestly, did it get you what you wanted? Are you happy? Are you like, oh yeah, I made this excuse and I'm where I want to be now? Like, no. And so there was times where I would make those excuses and be like, you know what, I could stick with this personal training, like, and give myself those excuses. But then it was just like, am I like really like listening to my gut? You know? And so then after months of sitting with I'll just say excuse, it's like, no, this isn't what I want though. And so you have to choose your hard.
Yeah.
You know, you have to choose your heart. You have the choose your heart of sitting with your excuse and leaning into that, or leaning into your fear, or you have to choose your heart of like being uncomfortable and struggling. And you know, you have to choose your heart. It's just like when someone says, you know, like losing weight, I can't lose weight. It's like, well, you know what? You got to pick your heart. You got to pick your heart. Like, losing weight is hard, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle is hard. But so is feeling overweight and not feeling confident and feeling like insecure and not feeling good from eating bad food. Like, both of those things are hard.
Yep.
But you have to pick your hard.
Yeah.
And so, you know, excuses exist in everyone, myself included. But once you sit in your excuse for a while, you're like, well, damn, this isn't where I want to be. And I think I'm just kind of like, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Like, I don't want to really live there that long. Because then for me, time is always a thing, and I'm like, I'm wasting time. If I'm not doing my goals, I'm just, what am I doing? So,
I mean, it's extremely visible that you are a very goal-driven person. You do what you need to do to get where you want to get, and this desire to improve. I mean, it's just radiating. I mean, it's so visible from this conversation. However, I don't know if everybody sees it the same way, in a sense of, if everybody did, then we would have everybody training jiu-jitsu. If everybody did, nobody would quit. I mean, you tell me, how many blue belts did you tie around somebody's waist and you've never saw them after that? I mean, like, this all falls into the same train of thought. Like, we make choices, right? And I'm a strong believer of there's nothing wrong with the choice you're making, but there's a consequence behind the choice that you made. You know, and you don't want to train, don't train. That's fine. But like, you can't tell me that, you know, you wanted that black belt, but you stopped showing up, because that kind of, you know, or you want to get better, you want to win competition, whatever the goals are, you know, you were chasing the weight loss, but you choose to do this, you know, or you choose not to work out. Like, why do you think that it's so easy for us to, well, lean into that excuse, and I perhaps not seeing it so clearly as you do?
Oh, I don't know. I think that going through the motions is it's I don't like to say easy, because it's not easy. It's like, I could play devil's advocate on it, like, but just going through the motions and kind of letting life drive you. It happens. It happens to everyone. Like, complacency is real. And so, like, so many blue belts, like, oh, they're really gung ho and they want to train and they want to do this, but then there's life. Like, life is there too. Like, I got a job, or my wife is pregnant, I'm gonna have a baby, or we're moving, or there's always stuff there. But it's simple to fall into complacency. But I feel like what a lot of people struggle with or lack is like systems and habits. And people tend to just, for whatever reason, struggle in that area. And you know, I did too. I feel like I struggled with procrastination a lot, in not in all ways, but various ways. And it was just like, how can I create a system that I can actually stick with, where it's not like back and forth and up and down. And so it starts small, but that's the other thing that's difficult, is like creating good systems starts small, but people want the whole picture right away.
Oh yeah.
You know,
and
and
talk about it a lot.
you know,
People want to lose weight and they want to lose 50 pounds. Well, why don't you lose 10? You know, and then move on from there. So it also sounds to me a lot like you had, maybe you didn't not only not disappoint yourself, but it seems like you've been surrounded with these amazing people who let you make the choice without telling you what choice to make, you know, but they pushed you in the right direction, all that support. So I wanted to say that, but I think when you're talking about systems, does that simply break down to discipline? Like you have the motivation to do something. Now you need the discipline to go out and get it.
Yeah. Cause I think it's just, I mean, that so for this morning, I didn't want to lift, but I get, now my systems are so in place. Like my morning routine is built and in place. My lifting schedule is in place. Like once you start to build all these systems, it almost feels like a crime not to do it. So I, woke up and I'm like huffing around the house, like kind of starting to lean into that procrastination. But then it was like, no, like it's Wednesday. We do this on Wednesday. And then you just like, once you just do it, like you just decide to do it, you feel so much better after, because I know for me, if I do skip a lift or I do sleep in, like I'm kind of an asshole to myself. Like I get mad, and that's a personal, I don't know what you would call it, downfall or insecurity, or we all have different things that we have to combat. And I feel like one of mine, it's just kind of like making me think like, why am I the way I am? I don't know. But one is like, I think one of my insecurities is like, I hate when my work isn't done well. Like if I'm not doing something well, and it's gotten me far, but it is hard to battle. Like if I do a project and someone's like, it's not that great, I like take that really to heart, and that almost like that people pleasing mindset or perfectionist mindset. Like I definitely have those tendencies in me strong, and it's still, I wouldn't say it took a lot of work. It's a continuous, it takes a lot of work every day, not to like have the insecurity of like people pleasing or like that perfectionist thing take over. And so for me, it's been knowing that that's really evident in myself, and that's an insecurity of mine, is to create a system. Like how can I create good systems to where I'm aware of some of those other patterns, but I'm still being efficient, and then that efficiency goes into discipline, which goes into consistency, which then brings longevity. And if you're consistent in something, there's no choice but to excel. I don't know if I tangented or if any of that made sense.
No, I mean,
but
yeah, I think they're all interwoven, right? The discipline, the motivation, the systems, it all comes together. I know I had to see Thomas first thing this morning. It's not always my favorite thing to do, but I was like, I made a commitment. I had to get up and go. And had I not, it would have led, it's like a domino effect. If I don't get up and eat right first thing in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, I'm eating crap, right? So it's like this whole progression throughout the day where everything falls apart if I don't stick to that thing. Yeah.
And
that happens all the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do have to say that, I got to give Gary props here. No.
This wasn't first I'm sucking up wearing the Legacy hoodie, and now I'm sucking up to you saying that I came to see you first.
No, you don't even know what I'm going to say. Erika, do you see what I have to put up with every single day? I was about to give you props for phenomenal work in the last month or two and losing the weight. I mean, like, Erika,
but it's a system.
Yes,
it is, absolutely.
And this is where I'm leaning into this. Like, it is how we think about this. And again, like I'm seeing the grit, quote unquote, where you see the, not whether we can do it, it's how do we do it? How do we get it done? Right. Create systems, set yourself for a success. Create a path of action, and at that point, we are just chipping away, right? And I think a lot of this is where these are the points where a lot of people just choose not to have that growth mindset. They are not allowing themselves to be successful, and they choose other things. And again, consequence behind every decision. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess just personally, it's if I lean into my systems and being mindful of my insecurities, like I think that it's hard work, but it feels so much better to me than when I'm not. Like if I fall off or I'm not as consistent on something, or I'm not pursuing something in my, I call it like my gut in my, if I'm not pursuing something like right here in my gut, like I don't feel good. Like that's when I feel like if I'm not leaning into my hard work or my systems, that's when the anxiety happens for me. That's when the depression comes. It's like it's the not pursuing growth is when you start to feel anxious and
and
aimless.
then I think then people make bad choices, right? Whatever it is, and whether it's not working out, not eating right, or even worse, like abuse in some way, drinking, whatever. People have a tendency to go the other way, so it's hard.
Yeah,
hard. I feel for people. I do.
Erika, one of the big. Oh, go ahead.
No, and I was just saying, I was just wanted to. You said I feel for people. Like I do too. I'm like a huge empath. I want to see people win so bad. I want to see them win. I want to see them lean into their potential. And so I think that's where people that that are like us, that we do have these systems and we do have these goals and we can be like of help to people that do struggle, because I feel bad for them for people all the time, and like because I want to see them win so badly. And so I think that's just something that's also kept me going, is like even like for social media, if my post helps one person, it's a win for me. If I can teach a class that inspires one person for whatever, that's a win. And so I think if people that are in leadership roles or in managing roles, or like if you're a black belt or an upper rank, like I remember walking in and being a white belt and seeing a purple belt, and I was just like in awe with them. Like I just looked up to them, and then like that's a purple belt, and then a black belt would come in, and like you as a white belt or blue belt, like you automatically just look up to them so much. And so I just feel like, as in jiu-jitsu in the community, like being an upper rank, like being a black belt, being in a manager or a leadership position, like we have a job to do, like we got to like show up as our best versions, because there are hundreds of thousands of white belts and blue belts that come in and they automatically look up to you. And it's like, how are you gonna like impact their lives just a little tiny bit to help them win, And so I don't know, I feel for people too.
Yeah, no,
but
I completely.
We have jobs to do.
Yeah, that's for sure. No, absolutely. You're right on. And you know what? You mentioning social media making impact on people. I got to ask you, I'm going to pivot here a little bit. I got to ask you, what happened to Hey Kevin? Because where's Kevin?
We are on different working schedules and all sorts of different things.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but say hello to Kevin.
That's okay. I know Kevin's great, but yeah, no more Hey Kevin.
Yeah. So, but leaning back to just a moment ago, you said you love helping people. You want people to win. And you and we had many conversations when I was at Legacy visiting several times. But one of the things that I remember from our conversation, you said, and I don't even remember what we were talking about, but this is the impact you made on me. You said, we can only help them if they are willing to be helped. And that is often big struggle for people in leadership roles, for black belts or even instructors or coaches. Sometimes I personally feel that I'm pulling for you. I want you to win. I want you to get to that goal. I want you to do this, but I can't make you. Like the other person has to do most of the work. We are creating opportunities. Do you ever find yourself in positions like this where you're really pulling for those kids. You really want to, but
Yeah.
that just opportunities are not there, or maybe willingness is not there for those adults.
Yeah. I think, one of the sayings I try to remind myself is like when I'm really extending myself to someone, and they just won't, or they're not there yet in their
Mhm.
own journey to accept that. Like they're just not there yet. It's like you can't push a rope,
Yeah.
can't
Can't
you
push a
can't
rope.
push that to somebody. But I think it's just about, you can't, there's gonna be a lot of people that take a lot from you. They're inspired by you, they're motivated by you, they acquire really good knowledge from you. Like you're gonna have those people, and then you're gonna have people that you want to see win, but they're just not there yet. And I think as leaders, it's for us to recognize that. But the challenge becomes not in completely dismissing them and like Bob doesn't care, like whatever. It's just staying open, and then it's like a personal boundary within yourself to be like, okay, you're not there yet. That's fine. You're on your journey. However, my door is open. I am here for you, and I am more than happy and willing to help you with whatever tools I can to help you succeed. But it's a tricky balance as a leader. Like you can't push that onto somebody. You can't push that rope. But what you can do is you can stay open, and you can be a place where when the time comes, if the time comes, you're a safe space for that person to come to.
Yeah.
Because I think oftentimes it's natural that, I try to help you, 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 and you're closed, not ready. And then I'm like, okay, like
I'm done.
screw you then.
Yeah.
I'm done. And then you turn and you're done, and then they might walk into a season where they're ready and you've closed yourself off.
Yeah.
So I think it's a boundary of not like, oh, it's an interesting boundary, but to be open and to be available, and to just like, there are people that in my life that I've been like, I want to win so bad. Like more than anything, I want them to win, and I want them to see their potential and to step into it and to chase it. But I can't want it more than them.
Yeah.
But to just, when I see that these people, or I see this person, and I'm just like, I want you to win, but I can't want it more than you. But if you ever need guidance, I'm here. And then the ball is in their court. The ball is now completely in their court. And then you have to stay on that boundary with yourself, where you haven't turned your back and you haven't closed that door, but you're open if they come to you.
Yeah. And that's the hard part.
It's hard.
That's the hard part. Yep.
Really hard.
And often not unseen by many others, right? Like often, that's the internal boundary that we have to stay available, yet we have to find those limits where no, that's great. Did you know that we've been in this conversation for an hour and we didn't even touch your purple belt? You know that?
Oh my gosh.
We didn't even get there. Yeah.
But listen, I do want to ask you one thing, because we at some point we're gonna have to start wrapping this up. Black belt is a big milestone, and I had the opportunity to see your promotion ceremony on social media, a few years back, and I know for me that was extremely emotional moment, and for many others is. I mean, that's a goal that many reach and many don't get to. What was your internal feelings when your name got called? What is
I got goosebumps.
Yeah, I can imagine you sitting in that group. And for those who don't know, I encourage you to go see how Professor Crane does this. That's how you guys do it is amazing. I had the opportunity to witness this in December in person. But you sitting in that group of people, and that's hundreds, right? And then there's these black belts who are on the other side of the room, and everybody wants to be standing amongst those black belts, and your name gets called after all of these obstacles, after all of these struggles, after all of this grind and grit and all of that. Erika, come on out. What goes through your mind?
Oh man, I just I remember sitting there and my heart was just like, it was just thudding. Like it was thudding, thudding. Is that a word? Thudding.
It is not.
It is now.
Okay. It was so heavy. Like I could just feel my heart beating out of my chest and I was shaking, and I remember, my name being called, and it was just this surreal moment. I luckily had a little like heads up. Alberto he didn't like say, "Oh, you're going to get your black belt," but he was like, "You should invite your family, your whole family from Colorado."
like a not subtle hint.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh gosh, okay, this is happening. At least I have a couple weeks to, wrap my head around this." But I remember like sitting down a handful of times because I love to write. And I remember trying to write a speech and I could not come up with anything. And I just remember my name being called and I went up there and I just remember taking a really deep breath and whoo, like it was just so surreal. And I just remember internally just being like, please just help me say whatever somebody out there needs to hear. Because I have so many stories and experiences and struggles and like great times, hard. I have it all in these last 10 years. And so I just remember going up there and I wanted to just say one thing that could help somebody, and I don't even remember what I said. I don't remember what I said because I was so nervous. And I was crying. But yeah, I think the underlying thing was I've accomplished this. And if like you hear it sometimes, like if I can do it, you can do it. But I've always wanted to be someone that people can go to if they need help. Like, and if they need guidance, whether that's in their schedule, whether that's in their training, whether that's, they need a community, whatever it is, like jiu-jitsu supplies, it's such a beautiful thing. Jiu-jitsu, if you want to be an athlete, like if you're an athlete, if you're a hobbyist, if you're a single mom, if you're a doctor with like a really hard job and you need just like an outlet where you're not thinking about anything, if you're like a recovering addict, if you're young, if you're old, like if you just need a community and you don't know what to do, like jiu-jitsu can literally be that for everyone. And I just remember standing up there and I'm just like, whatever it is, whoever you are, whatever, I just want to help you. If I can do it, you can do it.
Why is it so emotional, that moment? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, in the big picture, really nothing changes. Gary and I, we talk about this show all the time. Really nothing changes. You know the same amount as some think that is like an instant download of information, but that's not how it happens, right? Why is it so impactful to us?
Because I think it's just, we've spent hours and hours and hours like dedicating ourselves to a craft. And it's like, I don't know, it's the weirdest feeling ever because it's not over.
Many consider that to be a beginning.
That's what I was just about to say. It was like you get there, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh! Like this is just like the start. This is just the beginning." Like, and then you take a second, and like during this whole podcast, I'm taking this moment, this hour, to look back and be like, "Wow, there was so much. There was so much in these last 10 years," and then it's just like I look where I am right now today, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so much more I want to accomplish. I have so much more like I want to do and my goals and this and that. But then I think when you're a black belt, it really hits you and you take a second to look back at everything you've accomplished, and like, it's like you hit that black belt and then it forces you to take a minute and look back at your brown, your purple, your blue, your white. You reminisce on like how much growth that you've had as a human being in your pursuit of this level in your skill, and then it's like a new beginning because you're like, wow, now I'm this black belt, and you look in the other way and you're like, whoa, we're just getting started. Like, what am I going to do with this now? So it's a really beautiful moment. It's a beautiful moment in time. it carries a lot of significance.
Well, it's great to see the level of success that you have introduced or brought to the industry and to the community. Before we start wrapping this up, what we do at the end of every episode, we have questions for you from our previous guest, but he had no clue that you will be answering it. So think of it as question completely in blind. This creates a very interesting end of the conversation. So we are putting
the last guest.
So, yeah.
The last guest left you a question
for
me.
you.
Did he know it was going to be me, or
No,
it's just
he
a
had
shot in the dark?
He had no clue.
We gave a couple hints.
He just knew it's going to be a black belt that's coming up to the next episode. That's all he knew. Okay, so we are putting you on the spot right now. Brace yourself. Gary's going to take a lead on this.
This is a nice one.
I got sweaty palms.
This is a nice one. So this is from Chris Wojcik, who's just a great young guy, super intelligent. But Chris wants to know, what is the best investment you have made in your jiu-jitsu career?
One. You have to pick.
Best investment I have made in my jiu-jitsu career. Oh my Lana.
We got you puzzled.
No, it's like the word that the first word that just boom came into my mind was knowledge, but I'm just trying to think of how to elaborate on that. I'm not talking knowledge as in skills, like actual movements, techniques. I think it would be the investment into knowledge, like to invest in your knowledge of all the other components that go around jiu-jitsu. Like I invested into learning how to coach. I invested into the business aspects of running a business, and that's, still just, starting. I invested into organization on how to like handle clients and private lessons and this. And so I think it was just like, so often people chase the dollar, but how often do we chase the knowledge? And I think just investing into knowledge from white to now is the most important thing. I don't know if that is answering his question good, but
it answers it.
It is your question. It is your answer. So yes. But I think
investing into knowledge, because no one can take that away from you. No one can take that away from you.
Yeah, and so that's one. Nobody can take it away from you. But I think a lot of people underestimate how well we can do if we simply allow ourselves to grow. It's like we don't have to. I understand that making money is important, and for all of us, and even your story just tells it how important financial support is. But it is so much easier, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm curious on this. It's so much easier when we allow ourselves to grow and let the financial support be a consequence of our hard work.
Yeah. So I think I've probably said this quote in every single podcast I've ever been on. Yeah, I think I have. So it only seems right to say it here, but one of my dad's lines that I've heard since I was a little girl was, never pursue money, pursue excellence, and money will pursue you. And if you live your life like that, you're going to win.
Yep.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I don't know if you know who John Will is, but he said something very similar, where he just let his whole life unfolded as he was a participant in it and being open to things. And he's highly successful, but he's also had this amazing journey that went along with it, rather than all he has to show for it is money. He doesn't. He's got this amazing life. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, Erika,
so invest in your knowledge.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt there is level of success behind everything you do. I mean, it's been pleasure having you on the show and having this conversation and learning more about you. Like, it is, I think it's so interesting too. You have created this presence online, which is very motivating and very inspiring to others, but there are so many layers deeper underneath. And I'm glad that you are open to share some of that, and that we had the opportunity to share your story today with others, with the hope that, your story and, your path inspires many others out there, especially females who are just getting into jiu-jitsu and, experiencing some of the things that we all do. So We appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for such a great conversation, kind of guiding me down memory lane. I feel a lot of gratitude, because a lot of times we are always looking at where we want to be and where we want to go, but sometimes we forget to take a look back and see what we have accomplished, so you've inspired me to do that today, is to, through the hustle, through the grind, through all the goals, to just take a hot minute and look back and show some gratitude. So thank you, because you helped me do that today.
Well, this is why we're here. So if anybody has been living under a rock and they don't know who Erika Dawn is, where can you be found on social media? Where are you available? If anybody wants to follow you and see some of the amazing things that you do, where can you be found?
My handle is Erika Dawn BJJ on Instagram.
Easy and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Erika, once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story, your life story, your jiu-jitsu story, your passion, and your love for what we do. Gary?
Yeah, I got a ton of notes. We always take notes here. And this might be if you look at it from the bird's eye view, the most positive thing I've ever written down here. Persistence, growth, doing it all, support, role model. Role model came up a couple of times. And outside of just this hour and a half or whatever we've been talking today, you've helped us out here outside of Chicago a bunch. And I just want to say thank you. And we've ended conversations in the past where I say thank you, but I want to really, really let you know how much gratitude we have for everything you've done for us in the past year or so. So thank you.
Of course. I'm so happy to help. Yes.
Thank you. All right, guys, let's wrap it up for today. Erika will give you a day back. Go grind it. Go grind it.
I will. Well, I'm going to do that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.